morning, everybody. Tex Homer here with Ian Boyd. We're actually going to do some film study today like we did a little bit of yesterday. We're going to talk Texas offensive line. We're going to look at some of the sacks as well as some of the run protections. We can kind of see some issues there in the Vandy game. So it's going to be pretty fun. I always enjoy doing the film studies. AR, what's up? Drew, what's up? Roaster, what's up?
Lakeland is that's like in Central Florida, right? It's like around Orlando. Is that right?
Let them know, Drew.
Drew, correct my geography if it's wrong.
Yeah. Just say it is, Drew, no matter what. Just say he's correct. All right. So Ian had a good article on the offensive line, and it had some good insight as usual. Let me pull that up first before we look.
Yeah, I was waiting on all 22, and then somebody pointed out, down that I-4 corridor. Somebody pointed out that Texas's runs, if you look at them run by run in the second half, they had all these like negative or unsuccessful runs. And so I was like, well, I'm waiting for all 22. I don't need that to look at the O-line.
Yeah.
And it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, second half, right?
In a bad way.
Yep. All right, so this is what I thought was important to this chart. So our most common run all year has been outside zone. And is this for 17 yards, 1.9 for the total game or second half?
Entire game.
Wow. That's crazy. Let's see. Small gift for ENC and a fund.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roaster. So 1.9 yards per carry in outside zone. We had inside zone for 3 carries, 2.7. Counter was good for us. There was a couple of plays where like Helm was just open with no one to block on those counters. That was pretty weird. 5 carries for 51.
We have to point out at least one of those long, like 23 yards of counter came on a 3rd and 9 run.
Okay.
So they caught him,
right.
They caught him backed off.
Yeah.
Look at this. I'm making us all kinds of money today.
Dude, we're rich, man. I think, $7. Wow. So what were your biggest things? Kind of giving them a breakdown of the article. You talk about the holding penalties and also a good thing to note too was you said the holding penalties were on the point of action. I hear a lot of times just fans or even commentators will be like, they had 9 million yards rushing if it wasn't for the holding calls. It's like, yeah, but a lot of those yards rushing are because of holding calls. So kind of what's your thought there with our holds? Did they affect the run or did they not?
So I have somewhere, if you scroll up just a little bit, let's see here. 5 runs were taken off the board, which produced 42 yards at 8.4 yards per carry. So all the holdings runs were very good.
Yeah.
And part of the reason they were good was because they were holding.
Exactly. That's what always cracks me up when people are like, man, we would have had all those yards. It wasn't for the holding. It's like, yeah, because we were holding. That's why we got the yards.
Now I still feel like I feel mixed after watching them more closely. Like Monday night, I was like, if you wanted the point spread to remain in a certain range, then you would call holding exactly when they called holding to kill drives before they could start, right? If you look back and watch them all, there is something that you could definitely call holding, I think, on each one of them.
Yeah.
And they're all very tight whistle, I would call them. Like if they were not called, I don't think you would hear that much about it.
But here's my conspiracy, right? Texas embarrassed the refs with the throwing the bottles on the field thing, and then the refs turning it around. So my theory, my conspiracy, the unprovable thing is that they're going to ended up being a little tighter with us, not necessarily like faking penalties, but calling us tighter because we did kind of embarrass them nationally. And clearly SEC front office was not happy about that when they called down their edicts, and we have to go find the bottle throwers and all that kind of stuff. But I just assumed games after that, the refs are not going to be super favorable towards us.
Could be, or maybe they had some Vandy plus 16.5 action or something.
I'll go of the conspiracies. I'll go with the less grandiose.
I think the gambling one is probably actually more likely.
That's
but they are all
pro basketball.
Like the Helm one, he hits his guy good. His guy is trying to get up, and Helm hits him like from the side and basically takes him to the ground. I would never call that holding, but you can understand why they're like, yeah, you can't tackle somebody in pursuit, right?
Yeah. Well, it's the same concept of a hold. You're stopping them from getting to the play without blocking them.
Yeah, well, he was kind of blocking him. It's a tough. I felt like that one was tough, but you can understand.
Do you think a lot of the holding calls were because Wisner likes to bounce it outside? So I don't know. I would have to look specifically on the holding call plays. But Drew, that other Drew Kelson, said that as a linebacker, outside zone is where you can get most of your holds, and that defensive box guys are trying to get holds on outside zone because the horizontal nature, the refs can see them throw their hands more and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm sure there's some type of schematic component here that will draw more. You're going to get more holding calls on outside zone than inside zone, is my belief.
Yep. I don't. It's not Wisner's fault.
Yeah. Good morning. Do you guys think Texas O-line would be better run blockers considering they have been playing together for more than 3 years? Yeah, just because of experience, but also this has never been like a great run blocking team under Sark or Flood. So I'm not like super shocked by it, but the lack of coordination on some of these things, but also you'll see like there's some laziness, like getting up to double teams you'll see, but also like a lot of these are just like guys are getting beat one-on-one as well. So it's not like a whole unit thing. It's like personally they're having trouble with one guy or something. So what do you think, Ian?
I mean, they should be better than they are right now. Better than they've been the last 2 weeks, for sure. I mean, last week, like Campbell was getting mauled. Campbell's a 5-star player in his third year.
Dude, there were some Georgia plays where he was getting absolutely like stacked and thrown to the side like he's never played.
Yeah. And the 1.9 per carry on outside zone versus Vanderbilt is pretty bad. We'll talk a lot more about that and what caused that. I kind of think that Flood and Sark, they do two things that I think don't predispose their teams to being amazing at run blocking. One is that they carry a ton. That's in my throat. They carry a ton of run blocking schemes.
So you never get grade at your one or two.
It's really hard to get grade at one or two of them. And like most outside zone teams, like in the NFL even, McVay's like 50% of their play calls are some kind of outside zone or something. It's like you're going to do this so well that you can do it all the time no matter what. And that's not how Flood and Sark operate. And at the college level, you can imagine the impact of that. And then the other thing is that I think that they put a really big emphasis on protection and being really good in protection. Like you'll see a lot of college teams, like back in the Big 12, Kansas State or Oklahoma State would have like these great running attacks, right? And when they were good. But if you could get them in like 3rd and 9, then these offensive lines they had that would be like the toast of the league would look garbage because they were, for one, they didn't really have NFL caliber pass protectors. But for another, they just were all in on we're going to run block. And then when we need to throw big, we're going to use like play action or quick hitting spread stuff. Yeah. So we're not going to – our strategy is not going to be around holding up in protection. Sark and Flood have been different, I think. So I think both of those – so even if you watch like the 2020 Alabama, they were better run blocking than this team for sure. but they weren't like they were not. That's not what made them dominant. Was their run blocking?
They also had Najee Harris.
Yeah.
And this also kind of goes into this point. We were spoiled by Bijan Roschon and Jonathan Brooks. Wisner is solid, but really is more of a change of pace back at this stage. Blue runs with his eyes closed. That's my favorite.
I don't think that's it. I think I don't. If you added Jonathan Brooks to this team and replaced Wisner with Brooks, I don't know if it would be. Well, it'd probably be a little better. But I mean, some of these issues that we're going to go over in a minute, you're going to see that it's like you put Brooks in there, it's not any better, right?
Yeah, the only difference I would say with a Brooks is whenever he does get an open field, he's going to score, and we don't have that with our backs. We're 108th in the country in explosivity. So it's like
Wisner had two notable exceptions to what you just said against Oklahoma, and Blue has as much breakaway speed as anybody.
Yeah, but we haven't seen it, and he had 2 explosive runs in 8 games. That's not moving the needle for me. And then Blue being fast, I agree he is, but once again, we're still not seeing it.
I think it's the context.
I don't think every run is so bad we can't hit a 40-yarder. I don't think your blocking is not going to be that bad on every single play.
The opponents are a lot better though.
Like what versus UTSA and that kind of stuff? Are you talking about?
Versus the Big 12, which is who Brooks feasted on.
Yeah. I just we're in the hundreds for explosivity. So some of that is going to be our second. And I'll look up to second level yards, which literally is showing you the back's explosivity and getting rid of the offensive line, and we can see. But that's the difference. I don't think we have the home run hitting because we've never been successful kind of down to down in the run game, really ever. The difference was we would hit an open gap and go for 80 or whatever, and that would make up all of our yards that we would bang our head against the wall on. Last year especially. But it's interesting. That a bulk of our yards would be Jonathan Brooks getting loose. Let's see. Not to jump ahead, but the holding calls on special teams is out of control. I don't blame that on the refs. Our special teams is taking a step back this year because of it. I think across the board, I mean, special teams has kind of been sketchier in every phase of special teams. We're not punting as well. Our kick coverage is not hitting guys like at the 5. We're not blocking punts. We're holding guys on kick returns. Bert Auburn hasn't got him much run, but when he came in, he missed those field goals. Like, just kind of seems across the board, special teams is struggling.
So they were 3rd in special teams FBI last year in the country at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Right now for this year, they're 57th.
Yeah.
So they don't seem bad. 57th seems so bad, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's still above average.
It doesn't seem like they're even that bad. It's just that they don't. We've become accustomed to a certain lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why it feels so weird. We don't even know what to do with it. Like, what do you mean our special teams isn't making plays? But they literally aren't making plays for us. Like,
you wondered when it was like, well, I got to replace Keelan Robinson, and then initially it was like Trey Wisner is going to be a big part of the special teams.
Yeah, he has to go play running back.
And then, now he's the main running back. Derek Williams, special teams ace, he's gone. I feel like there was even another one too. And obviously Michael Kern has been
hurt.
Watching live, I started in my 5 quick thoughts after Georgia to just be like, Ratliff was so bad for Texas. And then I looked up the stats, and they didn't look anywhere near as bad as I expected. So I had to type in some edits on my phone in the parking garage.
Yeah.
But it still felt like every time he was credited with a good average and a couple of long kicks, but live it felt like his long kicks only came when it was like a chance to pin them inside the 10 or the 20, and then he kicks it into the end zone.
Yeah, it's been tricky. Cam and Campbell got to come back next year. I agree with that statement.
Yes, they both have They should both be aiming for high rounds that they could achieve if they came back and got a lot better.
Yeah. But
Do you think they would switch them to the left side together or keep them over there on the right?
I don't know. I'd have to see with Gooseby. I sometimes don't like them on the same side. Like I almost, you get what I'm saying? Because they're like they can both be kind of high ceiling but busty, and I almost don't like them on the same side. So we'll just have to see. All right, guys. Before we keep going, first let's hear a word from our sponsor.
I'm just going to say, guys, you probably need a fiduciary financial advisor. And I've got the guy for you. His name is David McClellan with Forum Financial. He works broadly and deeply with his clients as a financial life coach. And he should know something about coaching because he won several national championships as a swimmer for the University of Texas. He specializes in financial planning and has contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. So contact David today to be your fiduciary financial planner and schedule a 1-hour consultation to assess your financial situations. The free consultation is available, so just give him a call. The number is 312-933-8823. That's 312-933-8823. His email is also in the description below.
Give him a call, guys. All right, let's pull up the tape. All righty. Let me move you over to this window here, Ian. Okay, so the thesis here is Texas runs a lot of outside zone, which is a lateral zone scheme, meaning the offensive line is going to step to the play side where the runner is going, and instead of trying to penetrate up and go vertical to displaced guys, they're going to try to create gaps that the running back in theory can kind of cut through several different options. So the play doesn't always hit at the same point, like kind of like a gap scheme would. But it's a super efficient play if people run it well because it provides so many options and iterations versus fronts. But you'll see here that we're also showing you guys not the best versions of these runs. So here we go.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
It would be funny if I just talked for the whole hour and didn't show you guys. Okay, Ian, break it down as I kind of go through it here.
Okay, first of all, this slot motion that they do is kind of hurting them on outside zone, in my opinion. They've been doing this a ton this season, and there was a couple plays where like people were saying like, hey, Georgia knows what's coming on these run plays, and they're stuffing it. A lot of times it was because they used this slot motion. And the idea is that you move your slot receiver from one side to another, and then the defense has to change their assignments at the last minute. And in this case, like the nickel slides inside into the box, and the backside linebacker is supposed to slide out, theoretically, to cover the receiver. There's two things are bad about this on this play, maybe three things. One is that brought the nickel into the box, but it didn't take the weak side linebacker out of the box because the boundary safety is dropping down to match the slot.
Yep. So up top here, guys, this is the nickel at the top of the screen. Here's your backside linebacker, and then here is your safety that's going to end up coming down and getting into the run action here.
Well, and he covers the slot. Like he's dropping down to match the slot. So you have not removed the weak side linebacker from the box. All you've done is bring in one player closer to the action, the nickel. Now it's the nickel, so not the worst thing in the world, but you haven't helped at all. Second, when you do this motion, teams know you're going to run it, the ball. Like you're not throwing from this motion very much. So it's like you've added a guy to the box, you've tipped off the defense about what's coming. And then if you play it a little more, you can see
what's funny here, right, is like he might this linebacker's just on a blitz, but even before the snap, he knows exactly what's up.
Yes. So they got Cole Hudson in at guard on this play.
Cole Hudson is here.
The left guard.
Side, right guard.
Sorry.
Yeah. So let's run it.
This may have even been an auto blitz check to the motion. So that guy,
Hudson gets completely demolished by a linebacker here, somebody like half of his size.
in fairness to Hudson, the linebacker lines up. How far are we off the ball initially?
About 5.
5 yards, almost
4.
60. 4 or 5 yards off the ball. They motion that may be triggering the blitz. It almost definitely is if you watch it. So Hudson is thinking like, I'm going to climb up to the weak side linebacker. That's my job on this play. Instead, the Mike linebacker, who's not even in Hudson's like mind as somebody he's worried about, is just bam in his face at the snap, basically. And that goes poorly. And that's the main reason why this play was destroyed. So you can see this against Georgia too. When they do that slot motion from 11 personnel right before they run outside zone, it just, you're tipping people off. Teams do that for inside zone all the time, but inside zone is a very different play. It's tighter, you're hitting faster.
And you're going forward as well.
You're going forward, you're not going lateral. I don't like it.
Forgive me if this doesn't make sense, but if the motion is necessary, but it's tipping our hand, wouldn't it fix be to turn this into an RPO with Quinn reading the linebacker?
Yeah, well, you would just not do motion, and an RPO would be better for sure. But even if you're running an RPO, Vanderbilt was playing single high match for almost the entire game.
Yep.
So you'd be throwing to basically covered people a lot of times on something like this. I mean, they hit a lot of RPOs early, so obviously they figured it out. But
have you seen the fan narrative that we can't pass because they're keeping 2 high safeties constantly? It's just not correct. They were in cover 3, match 3, almost the whole game.
Yep.
And if you see here, guys, fans are getting confused. Yes, we see 2 high safeties here. They're also not playing deep, by the way. We see 2 high safeties, but post snap, it's cover 3.
Yep.
So fans, just be aware of that. Quit repeating the nonsense that we can't throw the ball because everybody's so far back. Or that we have 2 corners and 2 safeties back, because that's just not true. All right, cool. You ready for the next one?
Yep. 2 high safeties is kind of the thing in football now, right? Like you got Mel Kiper saying that we should
everyone does it. Yeah, it's a whole thing. And so it's Sark mentioned that as well in his presser about high safeties. Yeah, when Sark said they can't deep pass because the safeties are too far back. If Sarkisian can't beat cover 3, what are we doing? And the answer is he can beat cover 3. So that was disingenuous to be like, well, they're too far back for us to pass. Well, then pass in front of them in intermediate.
I will note that on the all-22, there was nothing open deep all game.
Yeah, but that's got to be conceptually. I mean, we got to get stuff open deep. Or make them come back or play in the intermediate. Because we're not punishing. Say the safety does go super high like NFL style, and he's pretty far back. That's all good. You have the leverage here with Golden. Like on a concept, right? They're bailing out. They're funneling towards the first. You have a Golden hit the dig. If he's dropping this far back, hit the dig. There's like other options, you know?
All the normal over post stuff, the Yankee stuff was not there.
But it wasn't there versus Georgia. We have to change if they figured it out.
It was more there. The intermediate stuff was more there against Georgia than it was against Vanderbilt, believe it or not. But the checkdowns were wide open.
So what do you do to completely break Sarkisian's offense? You play cover 3 match and you have athletes rally down to the auto checks. That's how easy it is to beat Sark now. You know, that's what's confusing me.
If Sark doesn't call different pass plays, then yes, it can be that easy. He did not call very much that would have exploited what Vanderbilt was doing.
Why do you think that is? You think he was just trying to get into the bye?
Yeah. Also, they were winning. It was pretty comfortable even without a better game plan. And I think they just whatever. They mixed
All
in
right.
a couple plays that would have that helped make a difference. I'm going to get into it more today and tomorrow in some articles.
All right. Outside zone left again.
Usually when somebody's running free in the backfield, outside zone has issues.
Yeah. So let's watch 96. This is on Banks and tight end Gunnar Helm. So it's a trade block. These guys are supposed to work together and probably working to that end to who's that to the nickel, most dangerous man. You'll see that they lack communication here, right? Like Kelvin Banks clearly thinks he's getting more help. So like Helm shoulder checks this end, like he's trying to bump him into Banks to help him out, but neither one pick him up. And Banks immediately realizes it and reaches for him, but he's able to then kind of swat at his legs, trip him up, turn him back inside for a second. And then I think that what is that, a safety or the backside linebacker?
The safety.
The
too high safety.
Yeah, the too high safety rotates down and he's able to come clean it up.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's
something that I think gave Texas trouble in this game. If you go back to like the start of the play, like before it snapped, is that their defensive line, less obvious here, but they were often a little more off the ball, and they would let things develop a little bit and then come downhill with some angles to try to cut off those outside zone blocks.
Yeah, and then they go bare too on the next couple of plays to try to force one-on-ones, which is interesting.
Yep. And the Texas's timing and on the combos was just bad, just throughout. We'll see more. I think all of them probably have a bad combo block on them that we have drawn up.
Yeah. So if we look on the backside here, Majors, center, Campbell, guard, Williams. That three technique that Campbell would be blocking in this situation, it goes outside, which is fine. The play's going the opposite way. Who cares? And then Cam tries to look for work, but he's really not looking for work. So it's just kind of a wasted rep there. And then Campbell and Majors get double team that guy, but then they have to work. I guess they're trying to work to that safety. And Majors doesn't have the leverage there to catch him.
Campbell's not picking him up either. They're not trading him from Majors to Campbell. That trade does not happen.
Correct. So it's like you want Majors' helmet's already on the other side, and so he's able to deliver ideally, give him to Campbell. Campbell's not even in a position to take him. Majors tries to give him away and go help out on the safety, but
he's even downfield.
Yeah. But you'll see a lot of times like Campbell is being very lazy on these double teams and kind of letting Majors do like a majority of the work.
Majors, that was a blitzing linebacker that Majors popped to hand over to him.
Yeah.
Which meant that Connor didn't get any help on his guy.
Yeah, so Connor's stuck in a solo block right here.
Which just means less lateral push. Like you get no lateral push because you don't get the combo on the 3-tech.
Yeah.
And you don't get anything on the play side end at all. So he's boxing the play in, and then you're not able to wash out the 3 technique because you didn't get a combo there.
And he's not really able at this point to even turn a 3 technique, to like kind of create that lane. They're both still square. So Wisner kind of has like a question of which way he's going to go. He chooses to go outside, but by that point, but really so Helm and Banks, they blew that, whoever's responsibility, that gets blown. He was able to turn it back inside and smack at his legs. And then this safety is able to come down and make the final play and clean it up because Majors tries to pass off this double team to Campbell. Campbell doesn't overtake it. Also, that guy's way faster than Majors and he's out leveraged. So that's a really hard thing for Majors to even get to in the first place.
You also see the angles are clear because the edge boxed it in so tight before they could get to the other hash.
Yeah.
When that safety and that nickel are taking their pursuit angles, It's like it's just on a table for them. It's really easy.
Yep.
They're not having to adjust on the run based on the trajectory of the back. They were able to run to a predetermined spot.
Yeah. Ready for the next one?
Yeah. This is going to be a beating. Just play after play like this.
This is Connor getting beat again. All right. So Helm's gonna
bear.
Yeah, they're in bear, I think. I mean, let me see. Yeah.
Notice how everybody noticed they're a yard off the football.
Yeah, it's giving them ability. So Gunnar Helm is going to come take the end, or whoever is going to be the most dangerous man off the end in split flow. They're going to zone left. So the offensive line is all going to be stepping to their left laterally. This is once again Campbell's being lazy and letting Majors do all the work. So Cam's guy has leverage and goes inside. It kind of restricts Campbell's ability to climb here. But notice he's just putting his hand on Majors back here and doing absolutely nothing. And just totally runs around. And so Majors once again is trying to hand him this block, but he can't. And so I guess the backer here, right? The front side linebacker beats Majors right there. He's able to come down into the box, and then Connor gets beat to his left, and he's able to make the tackle here.
Normally you would have seen Banks put a shoulder back into that 3 technique to help Connor, because Banks' dude is so far out.
Right, and he has
really easy to maintain that lane if you just bump the 3 technique and make sure that Connor has a good, but he doesn't.
Yep, but I also think Banks is so concerned because 10 is way out there.
Yeah, but that's fine, because if you control the 3 technique, you can just run through so easily. You know what I mean?
The 10's going to have to come to Banks if you can control the 3.
You can kick him out or drive him upfield and then just blow that hole wide open, which is what happens anyway, right?
Yeah.
Like Banks, that hole is so easy, but the 3 technique is not under control, so it goes awry.
Yeah. So just getting beat. And then final outside zone run.
This is bear.
Yeah.
You got that slot.
They don't fire on this motion here.
They're already in a bear, I guess. So
they don't care about firing the matching up with the center.
And once again, it does nothing because it gets that backside linebacker out, but then it just gets replaced by the dropping safety.
Yep.
Whom they actually block. But what went wrong here?
So Cam's out leveraged again.
Can't reach the 3.
He can't reach him. Luckily, he misses him, but he does kind of slow down Trey. Campbell just goes solo straight to the backside linebacker here. Majors has a tough block, but he's able to get it. Connor turns his guy, and Banks turns his guy. So theoretically, you would be able to get the fold between the center and the B gap to move to B gap, theoretically, because you have Bolden come out here and do his thing too. Bolden comes and blocks the safety.
This again, if Campbell had gotten a better bump on the guy that Williams picks up, then the cutback is wide open.
Yep. But they're soloing a lot of these and not helping each other. So Majors finally gets beat at the end there. And Trey goes, I have to bump it outside. And he runs out of real estate pretty much.
They may even have gotten a holding on Banks here at the end too. I don't remember.
I don't remember either. But what's your prognosis here, man? Because my thing is we're not helping each other. Even when we're doing solo blocks, you can still help each other. I know outside zone is kind of quick hitting, and it's elephant on parades, and you want to run. But if you can help somebody on a solo block when they're out leveraged, then do it. And then the other ones are just us getting kind of beat up one-on-one. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think Vanderbilt playing off helped hurt a little bit. It gave them better angles attacking downhill. I think Texas's trades were sloppy and ugly. They were so good at this against Oklahoma, and now it looks like a mirage. Like, do you guys know how to do this against 4 down, or are you guys only good at abusing 3 down flyover teams?
Yeah. All right. Before we keep going, we're actually going to look at some answers that Sarkisian and Flood tried to introduce into the run game right after a word from our sponsor.
This video is brought to you by Luxe Kitchen and Bath. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook, and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring to life that dream vision of your special home. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team provides full remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today. Or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get a free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's L-U-X-E. Or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Link in the description.
Back in action. All right. So next we get some buck sweeps, some pin and pull, whatever you guys want to call it. And this is in 21 personnel, so 2 back. And who is 21 Niblet?
Yeah.
Niblet's going to play the role of a gunner helm here, getting a backside end, which is interesting. So they're in bear again.
Yep.
And then here we go. So they're going to pull both guards, Campbell and Connor, are going to pull out to the front side, and it's a power run style where you can get more guys on the front side than they have.
Student body left, right kind of deal.
Yep. So the first pulling guard, the one that's closest to the play side, he's going to take out the end here, which is number 10. And then the second pulling guard is going to wrap around to most dangerous man. It could be a safety. It could be a corner, whoever ends up getting out there. And they do this well. And I think that's an advantage, too. I think we have athletic guards. I think that I like our stuff in counter and some power and stuff like that because I think we can move pretty well at the guard position. What do you think?
Yeah, and majors. Sometimes they pull majors depending on who's covered and who's not.
Yep.
And majors is awesome at it. They pull him all the time. Usually what gets them is whether or not gunner helm gets the down block. Like they tried to run this against Georgia and Oklahoma a few times, and gunner helm wasn't always able to. If you don't get push at the point of attack with the tight end, then when your guards pull around, they just find a big mess and they can't get to anybody. But on this one, Helm's not even covered up.
Nope.
Like there's nobody.
He's able to go straight. He's able to go straight to that front side linebacker.
So easy mode.
So remember when we were talking about like helping out your guys? Helm doesn't do a great job of it here, but just look, he puts his hand on that guy at least to help with his left tackle and trying to deliver him a little bit. That's what we mean when helping out on your solos. Have you noticed this? And I would need to develop this more. Have teams become more agnostic to our emotions? Inelastic, non-responsive? That because it feels like so much of that is designed to get you moving to do something. And of course, in a passing situation, it can be is it man or is it zone? But even versus Georgia, like I felt like they just didn't let it affect them. They didn't get out of place for it. But I would need to look harder. But it seems like teams are like you saw in the runs earlier, wherever running out, they're not moving anyone out of the box. They're not doing that kind of stuff. So
watch the safeties. Watch the safeties on this one when they motion. Oh, is this a rare too high play?
Yeah, this is actually a too high play.
Oh, no wonder the run was so successful. Usually, yeah, they pull a linebacker out.
They pull
So
two out.
usually Georgia and Vanderbilt, you motion and then the safeties just adjust to it after the snap.
Yeah, they just rock and roll.
And so it's not that big a deal for them. Now, maybe they're a little soft against the perimeter screen in Vanderbilt's case. And then Quinn goes 17 for 19 or whatever in the first half, throwing perimeter screens. But yeah, this one would be more what you want, which is the linebacker leaves the box. Something interesting about this play is that they have split flow and they block back with Niblet.
Yeah.
Which is fine because he does his job. It's not that hard. It's just like, hey, screen them on the back end, right?
You're more of a speed bump.
Yeah. That split action makes it a little harder for teams to key your runs when you have when your running back doesn't take them to the ball. Like Niblet's in motion and they're not throwing it to him or he's not trying to run into the flat. Well, that's different, Yeah. If you're keying the running back and he takes you one way, but then the guards are pulling in the opposite direction, then that'll freeze you up a little bit, maybe. They had another one that I may have included or I may not have, where they did the same thing with Nyblack, where they had Nyblack block back across the formation, but then they pulled guards to the other end.
Do we run a lot of GT out? I see a lot of GH.
Yeah, not very much. Very, very seldom.
So GT counter is guard tackle counter for fans that don't pay attention to a lot of scheme. But we use a lot of our counters with gunner helm, H-back, so GH mostly.
If you run GT counter, you have to block the backside guy somehow.
Yeah.
The backside end that's across from the tackle. That's an athletic dude. And if your tackle is pulling, who blocks him?
Exactly. He can run down the play.
So you either need a tight end that can get inside and block him reliably, or you got to read him with the quarterback.
Yeah.
On like a zone read type play. And Texas is not necessarily super disposed to either of those two things. So
is this a hold on Helm?
Where is Helm?
He's right
here.
No,
he's inside. He's inside. It wasn't called, if that's what you're asking.
No, I'm just asking, is that a hold?
Well, can you let it play a little more?
Look for the separation here that the backer tries to get. And his hand is outside. See, the backer's going to try to get separation right now. Yeah.
I think the fact that Helm he might have grabbed him, right? I think Helm being in position and cutting him off let him have leeway. It's like the classic thing. People are always like, these Big 12 offensive linemen always hold. And it's like, well, if you hold in a certain way, you're never going to get called for it.
Yeah, there's an art to it. But also here, Helm doesn't run his feet, man. Whenever you make contact, why do you stop here, man? Run through this guy, connect, and then keep running. But it's like he gets to him and pauses, and then that creates the whole issue. You have to keep your feet moving on these blocks. Because he could totally take him out of the play if he runs into him right here, but instead he lets him get his head around and everything and get a hand on Wisner. But it's a better run, but also, too, like we said, it's one of the few actual too high safety plays. Let's look at the next one.
Okay, this is the same thing, but like I said, Nyblack is blocking across the formation.
Yep.
And this one should have been good, Connor. This one was all drawn up. You notice they drop a safety down this time.
Yeah, they bring the safety. This safety up here, they bring him.
And
pull the guards. The first guard pulling is able to take out that end.
Great.
Now Hayden Connor should be good here, right? Except Golden struggles to get this safety block. But if you look at the schematic, right, they're not accounting for this guy to come firing down. They're kind of thinking Golden's going to be able to run up and meet him here or something like that. And he fires too quick. Golden's not able to get to him in time. It ends up taking out Hayden Connor's legs pretty much, and he makes the play on Wisner.
Yep.
So a little bit of wide receiver blocking issues there, but also, man, that's a tough block. That's a tough block from outside the numbers there.
Ideally, Connor would see the safety and just flatten him, get low and flatten him, and then you're like racing downhill.
Yep.
Nobody else except for the post safety.
But he would flatten him and then immediately kill Golden too, because Golden is turned around.
Yeah, that's fine. Wrong place, wrong time.
Exactly. But yeah, that gets blown up more on wide receiver, but also that's a tough block to make. Golden doesn't make a great angle either, but he's not expecting him to run down that fast. So, sheesh.
They almost could have had a chop block too. If somebody engages them low while somebody else is engaging them.
Yeah. Tough stuff. All right, you ready to go, Pats?
Sorry, show Helm's block on there one more time. I think we're going to see something similar. So Helm has an easy angle, gets to his guy.
He's hugging him. His arms are outside. This is not a block.
So he's on the line to gain, and then
but he has the angle to take him out of the play. And once again,
he's just trying to screen him.
Yeah.
Keep going.
He's not running. There's no forward propulsion. I get that he's trying to like box out essentially and just turn him, but the lack of moving his feet. I mean, in drills, you got to keep moving your feet or else this is going to happen.
This is why I don't call him Helm the Hammer Hand anymore.
Yeah, he's a receiving tight end currently.
Yeah.
Because the technique's just bad too. It's like, come on, Banks. Let's coach him up. All right, you ready to do pass protection?
Yeah. So I don't know. Did that make sense in summation? Like Texas didn't block very well in this game.
All of that to just be like, Texas did not block well.
They just didn't execute like basic stuff, and we found some Helm stuff, but their combos and their trades in outside zone in particular were just not crisp.
Yeah, and this is the least physically talented SEC team, too. So it's a little frustrating. Now let's look at pass protection. So we talked 2 of these sacks we talked about yesterday with me and Paul. So if you want to see the other 2, go watch that episode. We're not going to repeat ourselves, but these are 2 sacks that we didn't cover with Paul and myself. The first one is going to be the blue miscommunication. He doesn't pick up this A-gap linebacker that's showing that he's going to blitz. And then keep an eye here to look at this. What is this? The one technique, this wide end, and this nickel on the top of the bunch. Those are the 3 guys the center, guard, and tackle are trying to fan out to, half slide to. And then there's a miscommunication there, and blue doesn't pick up the right guy. And sack. But it's going to be easier to see it from this.
There you go. So the Connor has got the 3 technique outside of him because everybody's like, Connor, just let that guy run through. Well, Connor and Banks look like they're working to the 3 technique in the edge.
Yeah, they're on solo blocks.
Yeah. And then they're zoning up the right side with the center, right guard, and right tackle. And then they're manning the left side with the left guard and the left tackle.
Right.
And then the running back picks up the linebacker.
Yep.
That looks like what everyone is executing on the field except for one person.
Right.
Jaden Blue.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the one guy that they didn't block up properly happens to be the most dangerous pass rusher on the play because It's the linebacker in the A gap on the line of scrimmage racing downhill at your quarterback.
Yep. Yeah. And Connor kind of does the half-ass put arm out thing, but he doesn't actually do any touch. But you see that Blue thinks Blue thinks he's picking up that nickel.
Yeah.
Which can happen. I mean, like, as
he's
a
in a
running
great
back,
position to pick up the nickel.
yeah, and running backs you'll have a linebacker and a nickel, and if linebacker doesn't fire, then you'll go out. But what's interesting is that would normally be two with like the linebacker at depth, but it's like the linebacker is clearly showing you that he's going to blitz.
He's executing. Also, it's like if it's slide side, zone side, and man side, then the running back is going to get the linebacker to his own side of the field. So he thinks they're in a totally different protection than everybody else.
Yeah, he's the only one. Yeah, he's the only one wrong here.
Yeah.
So
I went back and forth on like, are we for sure this is on Blue? And the answer is yes. Yeah. Unless somebody was supposed to tell him and didn't. Kind of like when like Quinn got blindsided by that corner. Yeah, and it was like, guys, there's no universe in which this is on anyone except for Quinn, unless you're talking like, hey, Wingo should have said something, you know?
Yeah.
The same thing with this one. There's like clearly Blue's responsibility. Maybe someone didn't communicate with him what they needed to.
Well, you can also tell, right? Because you can see the confusion in Blue. Turns his head around. What happened? You know, so it's like he's the only one looking around very confused right now. So something went wrong there.
Good job by Quinn giving himself up quickly and not trying to make
the mouth. Yeah, dude.
Not trying to make something happen, not getting popped in the mouth. Like we've been critical, like, hey, you got to step up in the pocket, you got to take some hits, but
not there, dude.
Not there. Good job.
Yeah. That is never the situation to try to step up and take a hit.
Protect yourself at all times.
Yeah. Still cracks me up, dude. That Houston play where Quinn went like head to head with the defensive end. I was like, dude, what are we doing?
That was
crazy. Okay.
I think that was after he'd already been injured too.
All right. So this is just Cam straight up getting beat with the spin move. You see Blue's protection here, right?
So this time they slide to the left. They slide the center to the left.
Yep.
And then it's man on man backside, presumably. So big on big backside.
And he's aware of that nickel. And if you watch me and Paul's show yesterday, the reason why he's aware of that nickel and hypersensitive to him is because they fire that nickel an ungodly amount. They fire him all the time, like at least 15 times they blitz the nickel during the game.
So Williams.
So this is also why I think he's so paranoid about the nickel here, because they keep firing this nickel. Watch yesterday's show. They'll fire this nickel out of any condensed wide receiver set.
I don't think you're showing us the right.
I am. I'm showing you the play before. Why Blue is so obsessed with that nickel at the top of the bunch.
Maybe Williams too.
Yeah. So that's why he's going there, because they're doing it a ton. But he misses the linebacker firing whenever he does it. But same thing. Here's the play we were looking at originally. Why he's focused on potentially that nickel number 2 coming, because look at who he looks at first things first off the protection. He's scanning for the nickel to come through the B gap. But Cam just gets beat inside. Also, Blue not very helpful here, right? It's not really his assignment, but the guy's spinning. If he's not out looking, he might be able to help here and chip, right? But he's concerned with getting into his route. Like he'll chip here and then he'll try to get out.
Yeah. I don't think this one is. I think this one's mostly just on Williams.
It is, but this still goes down to helping each other. You know, it's like if you're gonna put it on PFF, 100%.
Yeah, but he saw that his guy wasn't coming, and so then his priority is get open for Quinn on a check.
Working into his check.
Yeah. I don't know exactly what they teach him there.
His job's not going to be to chip, but I mean, look how close they are to each other.
It would have been nice.
It would have been nice. Exactly. So
with the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah.
That one, Williams is just overstepping outside, and I mean it's just a classic.
Yeah.
Edge get them going one way and then spin away from their momentum and judo past them.
Yeah.
JW,
I just don't see how this is Blues man. This is not Blues man. 96 is 1000% Cam's man.
was he talking
It's
about
just-
the other one?
Yeah, JD, are you talking about this play or the previous play? Is Blue supposed to help there?
Probably not.
Probably not, but he can physically. He can help there. He's in a position to help, but he's clearly just getting out. He chips there, right?
Yeah.
So he's down to help. He just doesn't see this guy. He doesn't expect him to get beat that bad inside, really.
Yeah.
And then
I
he
feel
goes
like-
out, but he's working on his check down. But it's 1000% Camp's guy. There's no question.
I feel like if Blue had happened to see him and chipped him, it could have saved him. But that wasn't his job, and it makes sense that he didn't see it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because his eyes aren't even on it anymore. It's one of those things like would have been nice.
By the way, on the all 22, nothing is open anyway. So this play may not have done anything even if they hadn't blocked it. Because you see that. So can you go back just a little bit to the beginning? That white dude linebacker. Watch where he starts on the play. So he starts at 5 yards off the ball. They snap it, and he just bails back. And so that receiver crossing over the middle, the linebacker's in that window.
Yeah.
They were outstanding on all 22 at just matching from three deep.
Yeah. They dropped well. They did which is concerning, right? Because this is not the best secondary in the SEC.
They looked good in this game.
They did. But it's well, I think let's see real quick. I'll have to pull it up. But
it looked like a PK Washington defense. It was the exact same scheme as a PK Washington defense, and they executed it really cleanly.
So let's see what their defense was giving up. They were the 87th ranked defense in opponent yards per pass. So one of the bottom tier secondaries, but somehow against us, man, doesn't matter. Teams are able to activate into top 10 units versus us consistently for whatever reason. So looking at the all 22, which we can't see, how do you answer this? Like, how are we just going to have to check everything down going forward?
No, do you have that Yankee concept thing?
Just the diagram?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can find it. Start to explain it. I'll pull it up.
The thing with Texas's main offense, like the foundation of the offense is deep over and then deep post behind it. And then the deep safety is like, what do you do as the deep safety? Do you step up and help the linebackers on the deep over, or do you stay back on the post? And most teams, when they're smart, or if they know that the quarterback can hit the throw, they stay back on the post. But then the deep over gets behind the linebackers, and then if you can just throw it over the linebacker's head, there's no help, right? Well, with Vandy, they had it beat in so many different ways. Like the corner on the post would stay back on it and maintain depth over the top of it and would not let people run by. But also he would keep his eyes open for the over route. So he could trade the post back to the post safety and pick up the over route if it got to his side of the field. The linebackers stayed deep at the snap at about 5 yards. They might take a step forward on play action, but then they were bailing backwards. so that those windows to hit throws behind them was really, really small. They were dropping a safety down most plays, and that safety would also be super aware of the deep over routes.
And the backside corner. So say this Z decides to run the deep over, the backside corner would bail because they have a variation on this called the thumb, where that Z can act like he's doing the over, and then he'll cut back and go outside the opposite direction towards the zero hashes. But they also had that answer too, because they could drop that corner into where the thumb. So even the counter to this play, I thought they defended well.
So Texas had 3 answers in this game that they didn't use very much, but all 3 of them worked really well. One answer was for Quinn to see all that, and then just to hit the running back on the check down really fast. And that actually worked pretty well. Like, we all remember Jaden Blue and Weissner having a couple good yards after catch, where the deep curl flat guy just couldn't get there and make the tackle in time. Another thing they did one time was, you see the Y here is blocking next to the Z. They had one play where Helm feigned the block and then ran a shallow cross across the field. And they ran one of those, and Quinn hit him, and he was wide open. But those were only like 5 to 12 yard gains. So like good, but that's not replacing the 20 to 50 yard punch you get from hitting a deep over or deep post. The other thing they did one time at the end of the game was that they had the post route instead run a post curl. Wingo, actually. So the corner's backing off. He's backing off. He's reading what's in front of him and waiting to drop on things.
And he just sits down.
He sits down instead of trying to run by him. So it's like, well, why couldn't we run by Vanderbilt? Are the receivers not fast? And it's like, they're fast. They're great. You can't run you can't run past somebody who's dropping behind you with an awareness of where you're trying to run.
Exactly. They know your route.
They know your route. They know what you're trying to do. It's not going to work. But to do that, they have to give up the possibility of comebacks and curl routes underneath. Sark doesn't really want to throw those because they're not as fun. But if you throw them, I mean, those turn into 10, 20-yard gains. If you have a guy that makes a tackle miss, then you're back in the super explosive play category.
So what stops every team going forward from playing this style and making us check everything down?
Different play calling.
Just because they naturally are going to have different proclivities?
I mean, Texas play calling. You got to punish. You got to punish them with calls designed to beat that coverage. They're executing those coverages with a keen awareness of the Yankee concept and the thumb and the other counters off of it, and they're sitting on it, all of it. So you got to hit them with something different. You got to hit them with different route combinations that attack the weak spots. Or, if you can run the ball, that would help too.
What if we get out of these kind of 12 style and go like 4 wide?
Yeah, they did that. It didn't matter.
It didn't matter because I'm just thinking you're running 2 guys.
Because the big thing is that they're all 4 of their secondary guys, not including the nickel, are deep. In Vanderbilt's case, they were deep off the ball, and they were dropping with eyes on. They were getting their eyes in place to notice those patterns as they developed. So if you threw the ball, you were throwing into a really tight window with a chance at a pick or somebody getting killed. Quinn tried to force a couple anyways and put them in good spots where they wouldn't get picked, but they weren't caught either. So
I would imagine the bye week is going to be focused on a lot of scheming stuff up going forward.
Yep.
Because otherwise you can just shut down the Sarkisian offense and then we become check down kings, which is crazy. So that's
I'm sure they got stuff. I'm sure they got stuff for this. Some of the stuff though, it's like, hey, what do you do when they're just like bailing in match 3 and keeping everything in front of them? It's like, well, you could flood them underneath with underneath routes Greg Davis style, and then throw a gazillion like stick routes or whatever underneath. And that would
Quinn has the arm too for some of this comeback stuff. I want to see some comebacks, like some
comebacks are better. The more like West Coast approach would also be good, but I don't know. Then you're talking about Quinn has to make reads well. Your protection schemes, your running back better not let linebackers run free anymore. You know, your line better all be on the same page with the protection. And then Quinn, most importantly, Quinn has to get to his third step and then scan through with good footwork for all three. You know, that's all the stuff they've not been great at for years.
Which is called being an offense. So in order to do good, our quarterback has to be consistent. Our offensive line has to block. Our wide receivers have to get open. It's like, yeah, that's offense. But it does seem like our offense like is being called like we're always being blitzed. It's just like these quick kind of check downy stuff. Quinn's good at it. He can turn too like a second baseman, but it's not what we thought we were buying with this Sarkisian offense. So hopefully we can figure it out. It's going to be a little bit tricky. I thought we hit a deep over with Nyblack once. So I want to go watch that play and see why that was able to work. Because it was also cool to see Nyblack. It was like, oh, Nyblack sighting, man.
Yeah, he got behind. That did not happen again.
Yeah,
he got behind the linebacker and the curl flat guy for I can't remember how they pulled that off.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back.
Maybe it's just that he got. Maybe it's as simple as Nyblack gets to that spot faster. It's like the Chiefs. The Chiefs used to do this, and they would have Tyreek Hill run the deep over. And what made it so freaking nasty was that Tyreek Hill would be back there before the linebackers could drop back to take it away, and before the cornerback could trade off a route and pick it up. You know, whoever it was that Vanderbilt had picking it up, he would get to the spot and the timing would be different. And so then they would just throw it open. Yeah. So, I mean, Texas could just, they could try to have faster people run the over and try to hit it faster. They could also,
can you flatten it?
Well, if you flatten it, then,
I mean, you're going to have to – it's going to be tricky. You're going to be layered because if they're playing – they're going to have their four underneath. But it's like if they're scaling and dropping back as it's rising, it seems like you could kind of like get them that way and then flatten it towards right at the sideline. Because that cover three corner, if you're going to take them away with the post.
Well, Nyblack sort of – okay, I see what you mean. Yeah. Nyblack they sort of did that.
Yeah. So it's like that's what I'm interested to see. We got to get Quinn throwing the intermediate. That's his bread and butter.
They just got to get it open. I felt way better about where Quinn is at watching this game. He looked more comfortable, and I thought all his reads made sense, except for all his deep passing reads made sense. It didn't look like he was seeing like Georgia. It looked like Oklahoma. He just straight missed some throws. Georgia, it looked like he didn't want to hang in there and find stuff that was there.
Yeah.
This game, he was there and he was seeing it, and it just wasn't there.
Yeah, he stepped up more. He did all that stuff.
I think he's going to be okay moving forward. I think he's going to be normal Quinn, at least.
How much does Bond change how the game went last Saturday?
Some.
I mean, he's fast.
He's fast. He can do more than Wingo. Y'all broke down that play where yesterday with Paul where Quinn got sacked on an RPO because Wingo didn't run the route.
Yeah, he just sat down and let it get covered.
He saw the safety dropping into his lane, and he was like, oh, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And then
that's just young guy stuff.
Cornerback blitz, too, we think may have been like something that Wingo is supposed to communicate.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those things would be different. Maybe you have Bond run the over route, Tyreek Hill style, and maybe that helps.
Yeah. Sark's just going to have answers. I mean, he's brilliant on his play design. He's going to, especially in the bye. It was just kind of like, that's how you shut down Sarkisian is play deep cover three, and it's just like, all right, let's go home, guys. So he's gonna have to counter. We have too many weapons, man, to not be effective here.
I'm wondering if they'll face a team that does it that well again. Kentucky would be the other team that could mimic that game plan to an extent. Elko likes to play quarters. And
I like quarters because that turns into man deep.
Yeah, ideally you could get some post routes behind quarters.
Yep.
Arkansas, I have not really watched Arkansas this year.
Well, Yankees going to work on quarters.
Yeah. And who's the other? Who am I forget? Oh, Florida. I would think Florida would be trouble, except that I'm just not really afraid of DJ Lagway coming into DKR and winning as a freshman. That seems.
Dude, he drops bombs though, man. You got to use your bell curve IQ, dude. You got to do. He throws bombs, dude. He's gonna. I was watching yesterday, and man, the kid has a nice arm. All right, we ran a little long, but it's all good. Fans, hope you guys liked it. Doing some film study, trying to show you guys visually what we're talking about on a lot of these stuff, opposed to just kind of high concept stuff where we're just trying to explain it with words. Ian, thank you for your time. Fans, thanks for watching, and hook 'em.